Here's your shot at winning $1,000. Text the national keyword FREE right now to 95819. That's FREE to 95819. We'll text you back to confirm your entry. Data and messaging rates may apply. Please don't text and drive. It's $5K a day on WMAL. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:07 on O'Connor and Company. I just can't get over while President Trump is at the Knesset addressing their parliament, celebrating a peace deal between Israel and Hamas. We literally just played Kamala Harris. Have you spoken to Joe Biden? Oh, yes, I just spoke with him earlier. Oh, how's he doing? I didn't talk to him. I left him a voicemail.
Oh, boy. Best friends. Just such warmth there, Larry.
Contrast. Whew. It really, oh, gosh. It's 7:35. Adam Piper from the Republican Attorneys General Association, 8:05, General Jack Keane. And then 8:35, Jane Hampton Cook on, to ask her about this. Here was President Trump last week. Take a listen.
Columbus Day. We're back. Columbus Day, we're back, Italians. Okay. We love the Italians.
I feel like he was talking to you, Joe diGenova. Happy Columbus Day.
And happy Columbus Day to everyone. The great explorer, the great everything. Christopher Columbus was a remarkable human being. And more than anything else, he represents Western civilization, which is exactly why the left hates him.
As usual, I have to bring things down to the most base level because I'm a 12-year-old. Do you believe and agree that he was shtupping Queen Isabella?
Oh, my gosh.
Scholars differ.
See?
I love that he gave a serious answer.
It's a thing. People talk about that. Come on, let me just say, if I were Queen Isabella and I was stuck in some horrible marriage that was arranged by my ancestors and it was probably with some inbred, pasty-skinned royal, and here I've got Christopher Columbus, this man who's strode on atop a wooden ship and sailed it across the Atlantic and discovered new lands and riches. I mean, come on, Chris, let's go.
Well, for Isabella, it was the hat that did it. It was absolutely the hat.
I believe that's how Joe scored his bride as well. You got one of those hats. All right, Joe, let's get serious. Letitia James, I am told that it is outrageous for a president and his attorney general to utilize federal law to persecute a political adversary. I've never heard of such a thing. What do you say?
Well, what's interesting about this is that they're criticizing Donald Trump for saying publicly and honestly and openly and transparently what Joe Biden was saying quietly behind the scenes. And when he couldn't get the message that way, he went to the New York Times and leaked to them about how badly he wanted Merrick Garland to indict Donald Trump. The Democrats are loons when it comes to this question. After what happened to Donald Trump, it's remarkable that he hasn't done more.
The Democrats are loons. You're preaching to the choir here. Hey, what also I found fascinating over the weekend, all the discussion of the indictment of Letitia James by a grand jury, nobody really talked about whether she was actually guilty of the crime that she's charged with. They were just talking about politics. But, have you looked at this evidence?
And except to say, there were a few people saying actually that mortgage, fraud is totally normal. Everyone does it, right? You saw that.
Everybody does it. Yes.
Right.
Yes, it is amazing how the Democrats and the left and the media quickly come to the defense of a Democrat. The bottom line is this: the evidence that's on the public record indicates that there is a prima facie violation of federal law, mortgage fraud and false statements on a mortgage application, and that is for a jury to decide. No one can deny that is exactly what the grand jury, apparently an unfriendly grand jury, decided in the Eastern District of Virginia, and she will have a chance in the beautiful port of Norfolk to present her defense.
And Joe, a large part of this is also that she received a lower mortgage rate on this property, and sort of gained money through renting this property to other people. Isn't that part of this?
Of course, and she claimed on what's fascinating about documents is that the documents tell you the story. She claimed that this was a secondary residence and that she was the one who was going to be occupying it, when in fact she rented it out. And in fact, we know she rented it out because on her income taxes, she claimed it as a rental property so she could take expense deductions.
Wow. Not bright.
Amazing. So it's almost like she lied. She lied on one of those forms, whether it was the mortgage application or the or the tax form. All right, so Joe, let's shift over to James Comey, who finally got arraigned and he pled not guilty. Were you bothered by the fact that, Roger Stone was dragged out of his home at 6 a.m. by 28 armed FBI agents? He was in his pajamas, didn't even give him a chance to put his shoes on. CNN was tipped off about it. It was a circus. He was indicted for the exact same crime that James Comey has been indicted for. But Comey was allowed to be snuck into the back door of the Alexandria Federal Courthouse and left without any perp walk. I want my perp walk, Joe.
Well, James Comey was accorded graces that no one else was accorded in the Republican administration. I personally would have preferred an arrest with handcuffs at his residence. Apparently, the administration and the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia decided that they wanted him to surrender, and that's fine. That's their decision to make, and I don't gainsay them for doing that. If it were I would have arrested him, and I would have had him booked and photographed the day he was arrested, preferably around 3:00 in the morning.
Preferably. Again, conversations about this indictment mostly focus around the politics of it, not the actual facts of the crime. Given the fact that this is a Biden judge, do you think it will be even make it to a jury?
Well, if I were the judge, I would be very careful about throwing out this case. I would let it go to the jury. I think Mr. Comey is blessed undeservedly with a very, very favorable judge and a very, very favorable jury pool in the Eastern District of Virginia. He will get a jury pool that is full of government workers, mostly Democrats who are sympathetic to him. It's going to be a difficult road to hoe for the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. But obviously, the only thing that matters is that Mr. Comey gets a fair trial. I have no doubt he's going to get a fair trial. He's going to get more than a fair trial from this judge and this jury pool.
It's very interesting. He was in the federal courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia. As you know, Joe, I live in Alexandria, Virginia with a bunch of very loony lefty women. And there were a group of women that showed up, a handful of women that showed up, all geriatric, except one former Pence staffer, Olivia Troy, was there as well, holding a sign defending him. But it wasn't as big a crowd. I sort of expected there to be a big crowd. Larry was encouraging me to go down there. I try to stay away from women like that, but not as big a crowd as I would have thought. So I don't think there.
Let's remember, I think a very important reason for that is James Comey gets blamed for Hillary Clinton's defeat. Remember, they hated him when he reopened the investigation of her in July and October, shortly before the election. After he had exonerated her, he then reopened the investigation because of the items that were found on somebody else's laptop in New York, a former congressman. And so the bottom line is, James Comey is an approach avoidance conflict for these women, and most people don't like him on the Democratic side. And by the way, if Trump had fired him the day he took office, the Democrats would have applauded. Instead, Trump waited long enough for Comey to create enough bad feeling about Trump by leaks concerning the Russia collusion hoax that Trump actually increased Comey's hand. Now, I blame the people around Trump who weren't smart enough to know you had to get rid of this thug. But that's history, and they paid a price for it, Trump did, and now Comey's paying his price.
Yeah. All right, Joe diGenova, we're going to leave it there. It's a busy day. We got to get to the Knesset here and some highlights from the president's speech, but always good to talk with you. Enjoy your Columbus Day.
We're having a ball already.
He means literally. They've got a whole group of people over there. They're dancing. There's a string quartet.
Red wine, meatballs, the whole thing.
Sure. Oh,
and pasta.
Look at you with your stereotypes. Look at the stereotypes flying around here. What? I can smell the garlic from here. Thank you, Joe. It's 7:16.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's 5K a day on WMAL.
Overnight at around 2 a.m., we had the first round of hostages released from the Gaza territories into the hands of the Red Cross and then into the hands of their loved ones in Israel. And then right before we came on the air, a little before 5 a.m. Eastern Time, the remaining hostages were released. Jubilation, tears of joy, excitement, and just a giant worldwide exhale now as these tortured, starved angels are finally back home where they belong in their home and with their loved ones. The President of the United States was due to speak to the Knesset, the Parliament of Israel, I think like just at 5 a.m., but it has been delayed. It's been a long morning and into the early afternoon in Israel because of the delays in getting the hostage released. They also wanted to make sure that everyone, passed just preliminary basic health checks before they were checked into their hospitals. Prime Minister Netanyahu has recently delivered some remarks, and has the president actually begun yet, or will be speaking? He has begun. All right, so he's in the middle of his address as well. So we want to give you some highlights as soon as we have some of those clips for you, so you can hear what they had to say. Although earlier, after Netanyahu spoke, while the members of the Knesset were waiting for President Trump, take a listen to the crowd chanting for him. This is about 20 minutes ago. Listen. It's pretty amazing, actually, Julie. If you've watched the events over the weekend, there are billboards, there are posters, there are banners, there are electronic signs, scoreboard signs, less about the Prime Minister of Israel and the government of Israel in securing this deal as much as it's all about Trump. In fact, there was one event where Netanyahu, his name was announced. He wasn't there, I don't think, but I saw the video of it. His name was announced in connection with the peace deal, and the gathered crowd at Hostage Square sort of like, there was like a mattering of applause, but mostly boos, actually. He's not super popular in Israel.
No.
But then they mentioned President Trump's name, and they went bananas. I mean, basically, Trump could run for Prime Minister of Israel right now and win going away.
I think people in Israel understand that this would not have happened if it weren't for Trump. And they have a very clear understanding of what Trump did to get this deal done. And they have a very clear understanding that if it had been Kamala in office, those hostages probably would never have come home. So there's deep appreciation. I, to be honest with you, don't really understand the anger at Netanyahu. I'm not really clear on
I don't
that.
either. Yeah.
And, I tend to be, very pro Netanyahu because people are so vile in this country towards him and Israel in general. But I think I think that there is some disagreement in how he handled it and how perhaps he's handled the war. But I have tremendous sympathy and love for Netanyahu. So but again, I don't understand the full details.
Well, the unifying figure in that nation right now is Donald Trump. It's a remarkable thing.
Right.
And you want to hear what a unified nation looks like. Listen to this for a moment. Imagine this in America. This is Yair Lapid. After Netanyahu spoke, then the opposition leader, right? Basically, he's like their Chuck Schumer to Netanyahu's Trump, right? Or Hakeem Jeffries. Listen to him. You talk about political opponents being unified on the most important fundamental things that you've got to agree on. Listen.
There was no genocide, no intentional starvation.
Good.
The truth is, there was an army and a country fighting in the most complicated conditions imaginable against terrorists who send their own children to die for a follow-up, who use their own children as human shields. The truth is that a democratic state was attacked by a fanatical terrorist organization. 1,200 people were killed in one day. Women were raped. Babies were burned alive. And all the while, they played with your minds, selling you the absurd idea that supporting Islamic terror is somehow a liberal value.
Thank you. Again, they're unified on what's important, and they recognize the existential threat that their nation had to endure and the insanity that liberals embraced the radical Islamic terrorists who would throw them from roofs and burn them alive if they had the opportunity. We will give you highlights of President Trump's speech, as we promised. And also, we're getting reports about 5, 6, 7 minutes ago that there was some kind of disturbance in the Knesset that Trump handled with grace. I don't know if it was people, onlookers shouting out at him or something, protesters, who knows. But we'll give you the details of that as well in a moment. It's 7:23.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Adam Piper. He's the executive director of Republican Attorneys General Association. He's got lots to say about this J. Jones drama. Keep it here at 7:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
All right, 7:37, O'Connor and Company, as we're busy here with the events in Jerusalem, news cycle here at home, Washington nationally, locally in Virginia. We got you covered 6 ways to Sunday, as Chuck Schumer likes to say. Coming up at 8:05, General Jack Keane. What's next with this peace deal? 8:35, Jane Hampton Cook on the history of Columbus Day. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Well, we've got some data points here for you on the Virginia statewide races, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general. But, of course, I think the race that's in the spotlight the most right now is the attorney general's race, of course, because of the actions of J. Jones and the Democrat Party's inability to handle it and do anything about it. Even I don't think he's lost one endorsement from one elected official. There's now ads running from Winsome Sears about Abigail Spanberger, her refusal to say anything even, let alone to suggest that this person should not be the attorney general. And there's this. Check this out. $2.5 million now dedicated to the Attorney General Jason Miyares reelection campaign on behalf of the Republican Attorney Generals Association. And joining us now is the executive director of that fine group, Adam Piper. Mr. Piper, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Larry, so much for having me on. One brief correction. Our total investment in Jason Miyares' campaign is now over $8.5 million. So we put in $4.5 million.
Excuse me. I'm happy to be corrected on that. I mean, obviously that's a vote of confidence for Mr. Miyares and the job that he's done as Attorney General. But also, listen, we know how politics can be. You guys would not be putting that money in there if you didn't think he was on the fast track to victory here. That's a big part of it, and you're trying to just ensure that victory. Am I reading between the lines here on that?
You're reading correctly. So before the text message scandal, we had this as a margin of error race. So for the listeners that don't speak polling, that means we had it within a field goal for the Redskins fans out there. So when we look at this race, we were already invested over $4.5 million prior to the text messages. We doubled down our investment last week. We are over $9 million invested in the race. We are also doing a turnout program with the RSLC and the House Caucus to make sure we take back the House as well.
Usually when people look at races like the statewide races, they assume that the top of the ticket, the governor's race, is what's going to drive things. And I think that's fair to say that usually is the case. But it seems like right now this attorney general's race is the one who's sort of this is what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I hate it when I do this. I'm a radio host, for God's sake, Adam.
It's a star
the bellwether. But this is, I mean, really it's the Attorney General's race that's sort of rising to the top and leading the conversation. Have you ever seen that as an Attorney General or as the Executive Director of the Attorney General Association?
I've not. I've been in the Attorney General space for over 15 years as a chief of staff or at RAGA for combined for 15 years. I've never seen this. This race has led the political dialogue for over a week. So think about that, not just in Virginia, not just in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but nationally. Jay Jones' text messages have been the center of the political universe for an entire week. It's a really, really bad week for Jay Jones.
Adam, I'm interested. I mean, the fundraising, the polling, all of this is very interesting. But from your perspective as the head of, the Republican Attorneys General Association, I mean, you deal with these issues, you deal with these figures all the time, and by figures I mean people all the time. Have you ever seen an attorney general speak like, I mean, I know these are private messages, but look, other people's private messages get released, or people, talk in ways that might be, leaked. Have you ever seen something like this? Because I will tell you, I have talked to some Republican friends, particularly moms this weekend, and they are deeply freaked out that the state's top cop, essentially, could be someone who wishes death on Republicans and children. I'm just interested in your thoughts on this situation and this person who is running for this very significant office in Virginia.
I have not, and it's clear that Jay Jones does not have the temperament to be Attorney General. It's clear that he does not have the discretion to be it. And it's not just the content of the text messages of bullets and heads and excuse my French, I don't know if I can say it in the air, but, urinating on a grave and wanting to watch people's kids die, calling someone's children little fascists. It's also the context. And the context to me is almost as disturbing as the content. He was not unhinged because there was a floor debate or there was a back and forth. He was unhinged because a Republican Speaker of the House, a Republican legislator in Virginia, was kind enough to go to a Democrat legislator's funeral and say nice things. So Jay Jones was unhinged about bipartisanship. And what's shocking to me is the Democrats have just been, look, Abigail and others said things on the first day of condemning it, take accountability. Jay Jones has not taken accountability. Accountability is dropping out. Yeah. And only two Democrats have jumped on that train. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Larry.
And in fact, Adam.
No, I was just going to say, you hear Jay Jones say, "Oh, I take full accountability," but it's like, okay, what does that look like exactly? He's not actually being held accountable at all.
And really quickly, his initial statement on it was defensive and actually kind of throwing out insults. He was not in any way contrite when he was first caught. Sorry, Adam. I know you wanted to.
No. I think that's a better talk track. He wasn't contrite. He blamed Jason Miyares. He blamed Donald Trump. I mean, it's clear that Jay Jones has Trump derangement syndrome. Mm-hmm. It's also clear that he doesn't have the temperament. And if this was a judicial hearing, if this was a confirmation hearing in the U.S. Senate for a judge, the Bar Association would say he's not qualified. He doesn't have the judicial temperament. I think on that one thing is important. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Larry.
No, finish your thought, please.
I said one thing is most people on the left have just said, you know what, we can duck and cover. We're not going to be held accountable for whether we agree or disagree with Jay Jones, just like Jay Jones is not being held accountable by dropping out of the race.
Yeah. So here's listen. I think we're all in agreement on this, and most normal, moral thinking people are on the same page on this. Here's my concern: he's still polling at about 44%, 45%. I mean, and by the way, this is also a reflection on the dangers of early voting too. But from your perspective, obviously, the association is making an incredible sign of support for Jason Miyares, and by extension, it's going to help the rest of the ticket in Virginia. But do you think does he have has he hit his floor here? Has he hit the bottom, or do you think that this is just the beginning of a huge momentum shift over the next 2.5 weeks?
2.5 weeks is an eternity in politics. As you mentioned, early voting prior to the text messages, 350,000 Virginians had already voted early. 507,000 early ballots have already been committed as of this morning. So look, Jay Jones still has a pathway to victory. That's why the Democrats have not jettisoned him. Abigail Spanberger needs Jay Jones for the African American community and Speaker Scott's turnout machine. There's a reason why Mark Warner is appearing with Jay Jones this week in Fredericksburg on Friday.
Is he? I did not see that. Is that right? Mark Warner. Oh. Well, gone are the days of us ever being fooled again by these people claiming that they're centrist or moderate or in some way the grown-ups in the room. That's just honestly, I don't know what I'm more concerned about. The fact that Jay Jones said these things and has not shown any kind of remorse or accountability for it, or Adam Piper, the fact that Democrats seem to be just fine with it. That's actually even more terrifying, I think. We got to leave it there. Adam, finish your thought.
It's the last thing. What's most shocking to me is the Democrats I've talked to are more concerned by Jay Jones' speeding ticket and that he did his community service and lied about it than they are the text messages.
Yeah.
Because they all think that way. That's the only conclusion to reach. Yep. The only conclusion to reach, or they're so concerned about offending those in their base who agree with what Jay Jones had to say. It's one of the two, or both. Adam Piper, Republican Attorneys General Association, which is, by the way, doing a great. If you look around the country, the attorneys general that are Republicans are driving the narrative in this country and doing great work. And Adam, I think you have a lot to do with that, given your tenure with that group. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, esteemed members of the Knesset and cherished citizens of Israel, we gather on a day of profound joy, of soaring hope, of renewed faith, and above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
President Trump earlier today, just about 30 minutes ago, addressing the Knesset in Jerusalem. There's no truth to the rumor that he also implored them to buy a vowel and put it between the K and the N. Seriously. What is the deal with that? Anyway, earlier, Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed the body, cut 21.
Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. No American president has ever done more for Israel. And as I said in Washington, it ain't even close. It's really not a match. Mr. President, today,
sounds like
we
Trump.
Welcome you here to thank you for your pivotal leadership in putting forward a proposal that got the backing of almost the entire world. A proposal that brings all our hostages home.
Okay, and he sounded like Trump, didn't he? It isn't even close.
He knows how to he knows how to, make Trump happy.
Oh. So not only that, I've seen journalists who are somewhat critical of Benjamin Netanyahu, American journalists who are saying this is the best speech they've ever seen him give. Mm. And if he's interested in running for another term, this is going to go a long way there, especially if he gets an endorsement from Trump. Suddenly Trump's an international kingmaker. During President Trump's speech, a far-left opposition leader, think Hakeem Jeffries, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Zoran Mamdani, stood up during President Trump's speech with a giant banner that said genocide, but they don't like that sort of thing in their Knesset. Here, take a listen to what happened.
להוציא גם את חבר הכנסת כסיף, להוציא את חבר הכנסת כסיף מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד.
He was immediately ushered out of the room. On the upside, he's actually now running just ahead of Andrew Cuomo in second place for the New York mayor's race. It's 7:53.